I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We did open early at 5:30 for some non-public business, so we're going to move right on into the agenda.
Actually, if we want to have this go first.
All right, you want to do the budget presentations first, or you want to go through minutes?
It's entirely up to you. We can, however you want to do it.
All right, let's do budget.
Okay.
Student services.
Sure.
You want to watch a little game? Okay.
Do we have an updated for student services?
Yeah, I think she gave it to us last week. She gave us
This is the
stat.
episode, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, for this week.
What were you showing?
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted athletics go for something, if he needed to be the kind of students, or needed to be at the game or anything, so that was just my question.
Do we want to look at approval of minutes while they get set up?
Sure.
I'm all about efficiency here.
Keep moving.
Of course.
Let's move it. Am I throwing you off, Sherry?
Nope.
All right, so September 16th, 2019 budget workshop. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Motion by Stan, second by Butch. Any changes? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. I have non-public session 2 of September 23rd.
So moved.
Motion by Linda, second by Butch. There's not much in these minutes.
I didn't know if that was
Do we need to attach the nominations and resignations?
Don't say anything.
Because there's really nothing in these minutes.
Should we make a motion to table them for now?
Sure. We're going to table the 23rd. Are you all set?
Good.
Who seconded?
I'll second it.
Dan? Do we want to move, keep going here? Are you ready?
It's totally up to you guys. If you're on a
If you're ready.
I'm ready. Thank you. So noting again the same district goals we discussed previously in the previous presentations that you've had. Just to introduce myself to the viewing public who may not know who I am. Diana Danito, Director of Student Services. The district goal that we have will be to continue to develop a safe and systematic culture where stakeholders will be invested in the social, emotional, behavioral, and academic success of all members of the school community. So I begin my presentation with that. I'll first bring you to staffing. At this point, the plan is that we will reduce one special education teacher district-wide. At this point, we've placed it in the budget somewhere. I haven't indicated exactly where that location would be at this time. It simply depends on numbers. So I might have an idea of where I think that will be, and I could be entirely wrong by the time we get to June of 2020. So I simply offer this as an example. That there will be a reduction. I cannot exactly say where, although I will have to monitor it in the budget. So we've hired a number of staff who are new with fewer years of experience, and that therefore has resulted in a savings. So the resulting decrease you see there is $73,000 plus. We do see an increase in the extended school year services in order to provide a free and appropriate public education. Those students that may require an extended school year, meaning going into the month of July, the district is required to offer those services. It could be due to the fact that a child might lose progress or fall back in progress, or that the child's at a critical moment in gaining certain skills, and that would qualify the child for extended school year services, which some people refer to as summer school. So we've had an upward tick in the number of students who have been eligible for this. It is a team decision, so it'll be all those people that are part of working with that child that make the determination that the child does need extended school year services. From 2017 to 2019, there's been an additional, over the course of that period of time, 25 students who qualify for this service. So we're continuing to see an uptick in that. I'll talk a little bit about what the services look like there, partly because we've seen an increase in the number of one-to-one para-educators that we need to do during ESY services. So for example, we had 13 one-on-one para-educators during our last round of summer instruction, just to give you a sense of the needs of the students there. There is an increase in expenditure for para-educators, partly a result of the CBA, and then also just that increase of an additional day. And this addresses, the social, emotional, behavioral, and academic success of our students.
Just a question.
Sure, sir.
This coupled with the hiring new staff, fewer years of experience, does that mean whoever applies, we're going to go for fewer years, or are we looking for the best person?
Well, so just a reminder, this is a critical shortage area, special education, general
To be careful how you
certification.
word that up there, because that indicates we're going to look for the...
No. My apologies. No, that happens just to be the way things shook out this last
Right.
hiring season that we've been, and part of that is a result of the fact that there are fewer people applying for the job, that oftentimes you're looking at candidates who are brand new to the profession. We were very, very fortunate in terms of the people that we were able to hire this year, and I want to thank my staff because they've done an amazing job this school year, kind of really hitting the ground running, asking the right questions, really being diligent, while I'm pretty busy right now, making sure they're asking the right questions and moving forward. So I really want to share that while they may be new to the profession or only have a few years in the profession, they are doing some excellent work. Other questions on this before I move on?
No.
So tutors, historically this budget had been placed in the funds in the district-wide line, and it's going to continue to remain there. The amount is $9,040, and this is for behavioral and academic success. Those students that are involved in disciplinary issues, if you're a student with special education needs, you do have 10 days that you can be out of school due to a disciplinary measure. However, on that 11th day, we do have to provide tutoring services to make sure that the child is not losing ground academically. So that's part of it. That's also for those students in terms of addressing the continuum of restrictive environments. We have to have from the most restrictive, which might be that because of a certain condition you need to have instruction after school hours, or the least restrictive, which of course is being placed in the regular education program here at any of our schools. Questions on this? This connects to behavioral and academic success. So contracted services, there's an increase in contracted services to account for specialized assessments that cannot be performed by our school psychologist or special education staff, because some special education staff can do academic assessment or observations and different sorts of assessments of that nature. However, most of those specialized assessments are mental health diagnosis and risks assessments. We've had so far this school year we've contracted for 3 separate risk assessments, and that comes at a fairly hefty price tag. Reduction in contracted services for Henry Wilson. There's now only 1 student with special education needs at a charter school. Charter schools, just for the community, are public schools. Based on which students go there, their district of liability is where they reside. So if we have a student that attends Seacoast Charter School and is a special education student, we are responsible for, funding those services. And this addresses behavioral and academic success in terms of our goals. Please, if you have any questions, please just holler and I will slow down. So out-of-district tuition, this is a number I know is always one that people are very concerned about. We've had an increase of $85,000, so you'll see one line where it's $150,000 and then another line where we've got a variance of $65,000 to the positive. This includes a student who moved into district who was already placed out of district. And we continued the placement because it did make sense, and the student had some very specialized needs. It also accounts for 3 students who have been placed by the court. So to explain a little bit, because it becomes a question when we go to budget committee, out-of-district placements that are made by the court are a result of often a foster care placement or a child being placed somewhere, for example, Plymouth, due to the nature of the specialized services that are available there. If we are able to place the child in the public school setting there, we will do so. However, oftentimes that's not the least restrictive setting. There is what's called a 402 cap, which is 3 times the average tuition. That will be the cap for which a district will pay for academics. Depending on when the child winds up in a placement, we may or may not meet that cap, but I believe for last year it was, let's see if I can put my fingers on it, $47,400 approximately. So that's the highest amount we would pay for a student
Per year?
Per year who is placed at another facility. I also want to mention, too, in terms of out-of-district tuition, students that wind up in foster care or a licensed home for children, there is a meeting that's held where we determine what's in the best interest of the child. Should the child go to this new school district where the foster care placement might be, or should the child continue to attend a Farmington school? We most often, try to make sure that the child is coming here, because to have a disruption to family and life and many other things, we certainly don't want to contribute to that kind of chaotic moment by having a disruption to the school. So oftentimes, we've been in a couple budget hearings where people have asked, well, I've seen a bus way out X, Y, and Z. The reason for that is because we're making a transportation from another placement where a child has been placed for his or her well-being to bring the child to one of our schools. And so this deals with the safe culture, social, emotional, behavioral, and academic success in terms of our goals. Supplies, text, consumable books, and software. So I've combined a couple of sections in here. And I gave you some amounts. 2019-20 budgeted amount was $5,787. Going into this next fiscal year, we're just a little bit higher, $5,990. The reason for the increase is we are working to get complete sets of intervention materials specifically for math and reading, mostly at Henry Wilson and then also at the high school, so that we can begin to use, and while our special education teachers do a great job of finding materials and resources, we really want to have the opportunity for them to have a complete set so that when you begin working on in 4th grade, you can say we left off at this level in corrective reading and we're moving on. The child should be ready for this level in 5th grade. So we already have parts, we're already using parts. We want to make sure that the data, the material is up to date and is a complete set. So that accounts for that change. Oops. Fancy stuff here. Related services. So psychological supplies going into next year, that line will go down. We've pre-bought a lot of materials so that we have those in place. We're required to do evaluations every 3 years for those students that are current special education students, and then certainly students that are referred for the process, we need to do evaluations there as well. This requires to have an online scoring component. And then also usually multiple forms, because you might be sending a form to a parent and you might be sending one to a teacher, and then there might be one that you complete with the student. So therefore, there'll be a couple of different types of forms. Yes.
And speaking to that pre-buy too, it's not just that we're trying to spend it down this year. We do get reduced pricing when we buy in bulk, and so that was the reason for the pre-buy. It wasn't just to, oh, let's spend it now.
And we had actually planned ahead. Jolene Landers, who's our school psychologist and does an amazing job keeping up with things, had given me a list of materials last year that we've been kind of ticking off over the course of the last 2 years to kind of get those sets complete. Therefore, that allows us to have the reduction this year. So it's intentional. Speech testing and supplies will remain level funded going into the next school year. The contracted services line for physical therapy, we do contract for those services, shows a 2% anticipated rate increase. And then ESOL services, English as a second language, those have been reduced to $15,000. We've had students that have tested out. The tests, I believe, not last year, but the previous year, were changed through the state. It became a little more difficult to test out, so students that I anticipated would have tested out last year didn't, but we see now in the trend that they will. They've tested out now, and so we expect to have that savings. This again addresses social, emotional, behavioral, and academic success in terms of the related services. Any questions? Okay, behavioral services. Each building now has a teacher and a paraeducator in place to deliver services related to behavioral interventions. The decrease in the salaries and the benefits that you see for the paraeducators at the high school was because we had originally had last year 2 paraeducators because we were unable to find a special education teacher that we wanted to have there. To answer your question, Mr. Lewis, we weren't just looking for anybody in that case. We really were looking for someone that had, the special gift for working with a population of students that can be behaviorally challenging. So staff that are part of this respond to student emergencies, provide direct instruction in terms of social instruction, social skills. They develop behavior intervention plans. They work with the rest of the team in terms of how to implement this. They provide what we call reinforcement in terms of a child, after you perform so many tasks or you've been on task for so long during the course, and that's a simplified version of it. Then you have an opportunity for break. They would provide the location and the assistance during that scheduled break. And this applies to our social, emotional, behavioral, and academic success. So that's kind of the high points of my budget presentation. If there are any questions, I'm happy to.
Did anybody have any specific questions through either her PowerPoint or what's in the binder?
I just had a quick question on one of the line items.
Sure.
It's page 7 of 9,
Okay.
line 123. The adjusted budget for the health insurance was like $2,800.
Health insurance on those hasn't changed there. What you have in the pink sheets reflects the reduction, but we
I
haven't
don't have pink
updated
sheets for that.
Your pink sheets in
No,
the.
you don't have the health
Here.
insurance updates
Okay.
for any individual cost centers. Because we
Okay.
got that at 6 o'clock last night.
Oh, okay, so then these aren't the same. All right, I take it back. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
You're on it.
Us too.
That's right.
All right, athletics.
And as Eric gets started, the other piece, get in front of the mic here, that is reflected is that we did find out late yesterday that we do have a reduction in our health insurance costs. So that it will be about a 2% reduction in the overall cost. We're still calculating the
Can we make sure, it's actually a 7.5% increase, but we had budgeted at
Yes.
9.5, so
Okay.
it's not really a reduction.
No. Okay, so it's less than we had anticipated. So we'd anticipated 9.5, it came in at 7.5. And so we are in the process of calculating that out across the different cost centers. So we've given kind of an approximation of where that will reduce pieces, and we'll have those specific line items for you next week.
Okay.
All right, so those that don't know, my name is Eric Larkham. I'm the athletic director, teaching students here. I'm going to cover the athletic budget. Obviously, everything decision tied into the goal that we created here. Kind of points of emphasis I kind of looked at through the budget when making the budget, or other different items. One thing is just I looked at trying to dig from the past, this being my first year, contacted my coaches, previous coaches that coach that aren't coaching, kind of seeing, when's the last time we got uniforms. That's kind of a big budget item that we try to cycle through. What I'm trying to create is a 5-year plan, and I got that pretty well established on a 5-year plan of cycling different uniforms. So, as you know, the uniforms, don't last as long. I try to budget and try to purchase the ones that last long. I did put in parentheses here, we do have a contract with Adidas for our game uniforms, varsity uniforms, that we work through. So in the past, it seems like the quality's been there. So we're going to continue that. Right now, it's till 2021 for those contracts. Another way I kind of, yes.
How long does that contract, is that a 5-year contract?
The Adidas, I think it was a 5 years, so I think we got.
We're in year 5, okay.
Yeah, so 1 more year after this. So kind of how I also looked at it this year was I contacted my coaches in charge of the programs, both at the Henry Wilson Inn here at the high school, and kind of look for any requests that they kind of need, because again, I'm coming in new, so they're kind of the best ones. What do our programs need? And I kind of prioritized off what they gave me for their programs. Just so you know, referee pay, typically it does fluctuate. This year, it's good in the next year. It's the same pay rate for the referees and umpires, so that's not going to change in that line. And then we did have our first year is having a contract with Sports Access, our athletic trainer. We're going to continue that, same as last year, and look forward to doing that. We had that at every athletic trainer, every home game, both JV and varsity if needed. And that's through the all fall, winter, and spring seasons. So some additions that I've added this year was first, the big one was our volleyball upright pole system for our gym at the high school here. I got a couple quotes, and that's the best one I had for that system. And so we're looking at adding that to that account line. We do have another one that's 3 porta potties that we're going to do. We use for the fall for about 3 months. We did have that in another line, the facilities line. We just transferred to now the athletic budget line. So it's really not an addition, but it is an addition to the athletic budget. And then another one is due to having home games here for volleyball, adding the program, I had to kind of add that to our line for referees. So the referee line's not increasing because of the pay rate, it's increasing because of the number of games that we're adding to it. So if any other questions, I do have another slide just showing kind of just, our fall athlete teams, and we had a good fall athletic season, and it's good. So any questions for me? Yes?
The boosters, what does the money that they raise go toward, and how much did they raise last year?
She's talking about the boosters for...
The athletic booster?
The athletic
boosters. Mm-hmm. So the athletic boosters that we have for our student activity accounts here, I don't have a full number on that.
That athletic boosters are not a student activity account. They're an outside group that gives assistance.
Yeah. So right now I don't have any numbers on what that is.
I know we did stop gate fees last year. So.
Right, but I do know that they've been doing, as a result, I was hoping that we might have had an uptick in concessions, because that was one of the trade-offs we were looking possibly to get. But it would be great if we could get some of that information, just, what the numbers were and what they actually put that money toward.
And is there one, or is there 2? Used to be their own football booster, used to have their own.
I think it's just
Is it just one now?
I believe it's combined now.
Yeah, we do have the football boosters that supply certain things for the programs. Obviously, as I've learned, as years gone on, we've taken on a little more, but now...
So that's separate, Eric, from the athletic boosters? You said football boosters, so are there 2?
So currently the athletic boosters, and there's a football athletic boosters.
Okay.
Okay, so there are two.
So there are two.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what it used to be. I wasn't sure if they still had that. Okay.
so if we could get the information on both, that'd be great.
Because they used to, years ago, they were the ones that would supply uniforms.
The booster program. Okay.
Right.
They would have a cycle, who would, same as what you did, the cycle
Right, yeah.
would go around.
Doesn't sound like they've provided it for a while. If
They
they're
probably don't have the funds
contracted.
like they
Yeah.
used to either.
Any other questions for Eric? Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
Valley View.
Now, is Joe still involved in that?
I think so. I know he's on the athletic committee. I don't know if that's the same.
And Newt, do they pay in Newt for the football?
Yes, they do. That should be. That should be in revenues.
Do we have revenues for this? Oh, I mean, actually, it should be in the other one, right? We don't have projected.
No.
Do we?
Hi, good evening. I'm Paul Roberts, principal of Valley View Community School. Give a few highlights of the budget that Valley View proposes. Start off with the first one of looking at savings in the budget this year. One of the big areas that we've been able to save in is in the general supply line. The last 2 years, we have printed a lot of paper. And with looking at the math program as it was and the reading program and trying to see how those programs were meeting the Common Core standards, what we found is that there were pretty significant gaps. And so the teachers were basically looking for additional materials to help them meet the Common Core state standard goals. And because of that, we have printed a lot of paper. This year, the printing has been way down because we've printed, we've laminated, we're reusing. And so that part of the budget, which was probably the big Achilles heel last year, has at least, it's become better. We also were supplied FOSS science kits. The savings that we have in those is the resupply of them because there are quite a bit within the FOSS science kits that we, quite frankly, are not buying from FOSS. FOSS is fairly expensive. There are some things that are strictly FOSS and we have to buy them there, but there's a lot of other things that we can supply from other vendors. The other one is the savings in my line simply because it ended up moving into curriculum and instruction, and that was the stipend line. I did do some reorganization, for the committees that we have working. There was when I originally did the budget before it got moved into the curriculum and instruction portion. There was a small savings that I had from basically restructuring. A few of the increases. A lot of the things at Valley View are beginning. I know probably when Ms. Loud was talking about technology getting to the end of its life, we have a lot of equipment that's getting to the end of its life. In phys ed, we want to replace basically soccer balls, some of the hoops and some of the mitts and the MPR that the MPR uses, or the phys ed teams use, sorry. And so that line has gone up. Even though it shows an increase in the line, I mean, it is only a few $100s different from last year. The same basically is considered happening in music, where we're working to meet the NCAS standards for performance. We are buying some things with castanets, sandblocks, tambourines. And again, even though it's an increase in the budget line, it's an increase really of only a few $100s. So I've worked really hard, and the staff has worked really hard to ask for things that are really essential. One of the big things that's going to be changing, I'm working on, is social emotional education. And social emotional education, basically, it is something that can work for all students, can work for all people, actually. The idea is to help people deal with anxiety, with basically trying to help improve attitudes, improve their perseverance, the ability basically to work through things that are difficult and still trying to keep going, what we really want all of our students to do. There has been a lot of research that's been done along this, and essentially the social emotional learning will help teach some of those essential life skills that children and adults will need to basically become happy, well-adjusted people. And so the investment that we're making here really is in textbooks for supporting the Choose Love program. We've opted to go with the Choose Love program simply because, number one, right now, it's a free curriculum. And it's also a curriculum that's well-researched, well-documented, and it's basically it's a good thing to be teaching them about gratitude, compassion, and action, and things like that. The Choose Love program was created essentially by Scarlett Lewis. Her son was one of the people that was killed at the Sandy Hook shooting, and really it comes out that the day of the shooting, the boy Jesse had written on the blackboard in the kitchen, love and gratitude were the two things that he was trying to be, and that really kind of stuck with her. I mean, and I would suggest if you YouTube Scarlett Lewis and listen to her, she will talk about kind of the deep, dark places that she went after the shooting. And what he had written up on the blackboard in the kitchen was really what helped pull her out of that and really gave her a new sense of focus. I think probably, yeah, my slides got a little bit in, sorry about that.
Mr.
Paul?
Yes.
Roberts.
I noticed that the program is a K-12
Yes, it is.
curriculum, if you will.
Yep.
Is the game plan to implement that K-12, or is this a so-called, you're going to implement it as a guinea pig into the Valley View program and see?
Kindergarten and first grade teachers that are working on it.
Okay.
And actually right here, on this line right here, this basically represents the textbooks that they have found to help support that program. And it is for kindergarten and first grade. My goal would be is to next year is then it begins to move into second and third grade in the next budget cycle.
And then
Okay.
hopefully,
Yeah, because it's essentially a pre-K to 12 program.
Right.
And it's got a lot of really good activities. The teachers that are currently using it right now in the first grade are very happy with it. They like what it's asking the kids to do and talk about. And I mean, we're at the initial stages. I mean, I'd love to say, yeah, it seems to be, we'll see. But one of the things that we're planning on doing in the school is that we periodically meet, talk about the program, how we're beginning to implement it, also how we're trying to tie it into Tigers, because really trust, integrity, genuineness, empathy, respect, and we put it as equal success. That's really been kind of Farmington's unofficial motto for years. Okay, and so we're really looking as to how can we take those ideas and blend it in with the others. But we meet roughly every 5 weeks to talk about where we're going with the program, and then, but also as we figure as the year goes on, is what we'll begin to evaluate what they've seen so far, and where do we think we need to go after this. Okay.
And the educators' materials are in your board packet. Those were sent this afternoon, so if you need to take a
I
look
Right.
at
have a chance to look at it.
And at the last meeting, you asked, and I'm ready for you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
And the other, and I know that Ms. Loudon talked to us about technology. This line, the line in the budget there at the very top, This is to support this is the mounting equipment in order to basically mount those projectors that will turn basically any surface, whether it be a whiteboard or a wall, into an interactive surface.
It's not the old overhead projector that you crank the film across. It's the projectors that are overhead that do that part.
Right, okay. And so, all in all, when you look at the savings and increases within Valley View's budget, it really represents a 1.6% increase from last year.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Roberts?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All set?
Yeah.
You can go, Butch.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Stangway? Henry Wilson? There's one in the drive as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Matt Costagway, the principal of Henry Wilson, and I'm happy to talk to you this evening about some of what we are looking at for next year. As you've heard countless times this evening, our district goal is at the top, but when developing the budget for Henry Wilson, especially for next school year, we did look at some school objectives moving forward. So one of those is to promote inclusive practices in all classrooms that improve academic and social emotional outcomes for all students with and without disabilities in all general education settings throughout our school. Promote strong social emotional learning habits and build a positive school culture, enlisting teachers, staff, students, and parents as partners in the process. And implement innovative and exemplary research-based tiered instruction and data-driven programs to promote rigor, motivate engagement, and foster cooperation and problem-solving to stimulate learning and growth for our students and staff. So when looking at our budget to next year, all of this was in our minds and throughout our thinking process. So I'm just going to highlight some of the increases so you know the reasons behind them. So in our instruction section under line 28, which is textbooks, we are looking to bring in the Scholastic Guided Level Short Reads programs for grades 4 through 6. And our goal there is to increase student engagement for reading by using high interest level texts at their individual levels for reading fluency and comprehension. So some of our texts that we have available for our students and for our teachers are at least 5+ years old. So we're looking to get an updated, fresh set in. And for grades 7 and 8, we're looking to get high-interest trade books for content area literacy. So the total for that line increase is $5,501.84, and it seems high, and that's because last year there were no new textbooks purchased at Henry Wilson, so the line was at that $1 mark. Line 30, which is our magazines and subscriptions line. Our PTA wishes to not fund these subscriptions moving forward, so it looks like in the past, based on what I've seen, the PTA has helped with some of these costs, and they have asked us to put all of the costs for the magazine subscriptions at each grade level into our regular budget. So based on the grade level request by teachers in all grades 4 through 8, that equaled out to $2,577.83, making a total increase for that line of $777.83. Looking at our instructional equipment, as I mentioned during our budget workshop, we are looking to put in a STEAM lab at Henry Wilson School, and to accommodate for that, Some of the instructional equipment that we're looking at is a UHD Smart TV with soundbar, to support visual instruction, modeling, and sharing of student work and successes, and including wall mounts that brought the total to $1,101. Looking at some document cameras to support instruction. Some of our teachers have document cameras currently. Additional teachers have asked for those, so that's totaling $380. And our band program has requested updated musical instruments for our students, totaling $721. So the total for that line is $2,521, with an increase of $1,781. And for computer hardware, I'm looking at putting in one additional set of Chromebooks with a 3-year license into our school budget. I know Jen put in 2 for Henry Wilson in the technology budget, which is great, but to continue being able to support our assessments, individualized and focused instruction, especially with the use of now exact paths in our district, and of course the use of apps in Google Suite, looking to get a third set of Chromebooks for next year. And then, as Mr. Roberts mentioned in his presentation, the 2 interactive projector marker kits that we would like to replace a couple of our aging smartboards with, totals $2,200. All of that being new into this line, the total increase is $7,600. And looking at our social emotional learning and our PBIS programming to promote our SEL curriculum, to bring in outside speakers and performers to support our enhanced school-wide model and instruction. I'm just looking to increase that line by $1,500. As for example, the gentleman that we just brought in last week, Josh Doreen, who was awesome and well received by the students and staff. His program pretty much took out the majority of the budget line for this school year. So, to have really good quality people come in, it is a pretty high price tag. So we're just looking to increase that so we'll be able to continue those opportunities for our students at Henry Wilson. Questions?
It's not there's a big amount, but line 84, CPR and first aid training for coaches. I know the fire department was offering free CPR and first aid.
I did that. So for our coaches, so our high school coaches are required by varsity coaches, and I want my middle school coaches to be certified too. And it's a $17 charge for the card that they charge for.
Okay, so
the fire department does it for free, but we have to pay
for the card.
For the card.
Okay.
So I did each coach for $17. That's why I wanted for.
Thank you. I didn't realize it was a cost for the card.
I just have a question. How many Chromebooks do we currently have at Henry Wilson?
We have 1 at each grade level, 1 cart.
Of 20?
And then a couple of grade levels, we have an additional 1. But some of them are split, like 7th, 8th grade science, split a cart. And I know one of the carts is older laptops, which we've been having trouble with them, and they're pretty much done.
So not an exact number.
Okay. Just another question. What's the status of the music teacher? Do we still split a music teacher between Henry Wilson and...
We do.
So, okay.
So that teacher's at Henry Wilson for the first 2 periods of the day, teaching band and chorus, and then she goes to the high school.
And at this point, we don't have sufficient numbers here to warrant that becoming a full-time position here.
Really?
Not yet. We're working on it, but not yet.
Any other questions from Mr. Castangaway?
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Farmington High School. Mrs. Gardner?
It's 20 Chromebooks per cart.
20.
And how many carts?
Let's see, 7th, 8th, 6 is 2.
Take your shoes and socks off.
So right now at the middle school, there's 5 cards of Chromebooks. There's one for the 4th grade, that doesn't have any. There's 2 for the 6th grade. There's 1 set for the 7th grade and 1 for the 8th grade. UAs don't have any either.
Okay, so about 100.
I'm just thinking the additional Chromebooks, I'm just not a fan of, on top of what technology has.
Do you want us to go back to minutes? Does she need a minute?
Just gotta try.
Okay, let's go back to this and we'll come back to it. Okay.
All right, we are on October 21st, 2019, public session. Motion by Butch, second by Linda.
On page 4, can I make a correction, second paragraph? If we could reword it to,
Page 4.
Page
page
4.
4, second paragraph, second sentence. It was noted that one issue was a school seeking reimbursement, so just striking that last part. That second sentence and replacing it with, it was noted that one issue was a school seeking reimbursement for service providers who are not licensed. Thanks.
Under others present, it's Blanche Tanner. And Jana has 2 N's.
Look at all these highlights here. A lot of highlights. Question marks.
Did you get a copy with all the highlights on it as well? Okay.
The highlighted items in here were things that both Cheryl Olsted and I came across that had not been come across by anybody else.
Okay.
So we just wanted to highlight to make sure that you all know that there were changes to this due to some issues.
Okay.
So that's why these are back on.
All right, so we just need to reapprove them with these changes.
These with the amended.
So, for example, on page 3 of 7, it says minutes of October 7th. We're just taking that out of there, right? Because it just doesn't belong there?
Correct. And these changes have already been made
Okay.
on my copy, and then I'll upload it once we click on it.
Perfect.
Can I ask about on page 5, there's some under public participation where it has Ms. Blanche Tanner, and it goes on, at the bottom, there's in a paragraph, it says, which school reference with question marks? Has that been
Resolved.
resolved? It's on, do you see it? 5 of 7.
I didn't. It's not something that I put in there, question.
I just wondered if somebody had made a note and it was something you were going back to.
My guess is that might be how many students are on the caseload of the
Yes.
behavioral services rooms. Valley View is about 12. I think that was the nature of the question.
Yes, I agree.
So, yeah, this question here, I do not know where that came from, so.
Yeah, so in terms, so behavioral services, I think is the way I would do it. Behavioral services caseloads are approximately 12 students per building.
And then directly above that, Sherry, it looks like it's either the start of a sentence that didn't get finished, or maybe you've already corrected that. It says, Ms. Tanner asked when the next budget meeting discussion by the school board would be, period, the 24th period, or was there more to that sentence? Or?
No.
Okay.
That was the answer, the 24th.
Okay.
I can elaborate.
Nope. It just looked.
And then there was a highlighted piece on page 5 at the bottom. Mr. Grant was asking Medicaid billing. The reduction in revenue that we're anticipating is $130,000. Mrs. Danito noted that now OTPT speech and paras that are,
We corrected that.
you got it, okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
corrected it already.
Perfect, thanks.
And did we correct on page 6 where those funds were coming from? Yeah. Do you remember that one, Jana?
What paragraph?
$27,028.
Page 6 or 7, it's highlighted. It says from where?
Oh, that's the,
Freezer.
that is the, I think that goes with the hearing on the first page. That's for the school equipment grant, I believe, right?
Oh, that's from freezer.
Here, let's see.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. Yeah, it goes with the public hearing up on, under,
NSLP equipment grant in the amount of $27,028.83. Anything else? Hearing nothing else, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, as amended?
Actually, I'm sorry, it actually should be 27028.83. Okay, you got that. All right, got it. Okay, sorry. Just want to make sure the number was right.
Okay, no worries. Were we unanimous? I wasn't.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous? All right. November 4th, public session. Do we have a motion? Motion by Linda, second by Butch. Any changes?
Shannon's name's fine.
Janice's name is wrong in this one too. And same with Blanche.
I should just change it.
No. Actually, I have it right on it.
That darn copy and paste gets you every time.
It does. And others is.
Okay. No changes? All those in favor? Aye.
Oh, still.
One abstention. I have November 4th, non-public session 2. Same with others on this one.
Do we not have session 1?
Apparently I don't.
Session 1 was a seal.
Oh, sealed, yes.
Okay, so that, I'm just going to notate that on here.
Yeah, it's not noted. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Linda, I'll second. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstention.
Do you want to have it noted that you were absent from that?
Who, me?
Yeah.
It says excused.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Good eye.
You got the wrong glasses on, see?
I-
You had a different pair on than me, see?
Yeah, I know. I can't see up there. Unless I wear those.
On this one?
Mm-hmm.
Which one?
Are you on non-public session 2,
Yeah.
November 4th?
I actually have to take my name off that because I was not in that meeting. You were the one that took the meeting minutes for that.
Yes.
So I will remove myself from that.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead and add me. Right. I have November 4th, 2019, non-public session 3. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Linda,
Second.
second by Butch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention. I have November 4th, non-public session 4. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Linda, I will second. Any changes? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, abstain.
One abstention.
I have the minutes for non-public 1. I was told they were sealed, but it doesn't say sealed, so.
All right, so
Yeah.
we'll look at those later.
Yep.
And the last one I have is November 4th, non-public session 5. Do I have a motion? Moved by Stan, second by Linda. Discussion?
Well, I don't think Stan was here for it.
That wasn't.
No.
It couldn't have been.
Yeah,
Just came in later, whatever. You were asked on this same night.
We're here in the bottom.
Yeah, there you go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we all set? Yes. All right. Moving on to the high school.
You should be ready to click through, I think.
Okay. All right, so this is the Farmington High School budget for SY 2021. So I kind of did little logistics. We have our enrollment for the classes as they are current. 2019 is 53, 2020 64, 21 64, and 22 is 68. Then I put last year's, so the class that had graduated, their post-secondary plans. 30% of our students said they were going to attend a four-year college. 21% said they were going to a two-year, 30 entering the workforce. 3 were enlisting in the military, and 16% were just other. They just didn't know what they were doing right now. Our general diplomas going up will be 26 for our general diploma, 28 with our diploma with distinction. This year it's lower, but as we go towards the class of 2022, we'll be at max credits. This is important because as we go up, we need to start formulating our schedule to fit in more electives so that our students will be able to meet the 26 and the 28 credits. So that's why I wanted to put that in there for the board to know. So again, we have our district goals. And then I put our high school initiatives that we're taking part. Of course, NEASC is big and top of our list. The schedule modifications, we have a committee, and that, like I said, is to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students so that they can get the electives that they need, also fit in their core classes. We are changing the schedule so that a student won't see, right now, a student can basically go a year without math, the way the blocks are scheduled. And same thing with English. And as far as, when you're working on test scores and you want to raise them, the last thing you want to do is kind of have that gap. So we are going to work on schedule modifications this year. We have restorative justice practices that we are putting in place. These goals had come on, I did that in our August or our September report to you. It was kind of a house. So we have our student success. So we're looking at college and citizenship, career and life for our students. But we also have our adult success in, professionally and personally, because we value the human capital also. We want our teachers to be successful because it trickles down. When leadership is successful, our teachers are successful, our students are successful, and it's very important to us. We're trying to build culture and leading learning in this building and kind of formulating it all together. So for our budget, there was 2 increases in there for the 2021, and that was equipment repair, which only went up by $1,000. That was for our science equipment. And then our tuition for our Lakes Region Technology Center, we actually have a waiting list this year. Where in past years, so it actually goes on the student body. So some years you have a lull and we have excess money because not so many students took advantage of it. Well, we have great students, and we don't want a waiting list for them next year because this is very important for them to be able to meet their goals. I put the 3-year budget. So I have 18-19, which I wasn't here for, the 19-20, and then the 2021. So the 19-20, you see that there was, we went up quite a bit in our budget. This year, as a faculty, we wanted to focus on, okay, definitely what do we need? There are no wants in this budget because we wanted to make sure that we have the time and the priorities and the teachers to be able to infect the schedule changes, to be able to offer more classes to our students. So we looked at our budget, and these were the things that we decreased. Now, it does look like PE here decreased in their supplies. Last year, they had balls and I think of equipment, but they're not, their supplies were in there. So they were perfect for that for this year. I just wanted to bring that because it almost looks like we're not giving anything to our PE teacher. So these were all the ones that we decreased this year. So I decreased our budget. I'm sorry. I need a second, please. Apparently my sugar is not going to be here. Okay. Oh, yeah. Can you finish?
Yes.
Okay. And then you ask? I just need a minute. Yep.
So we have a significant decrease, and we're looking at our next slide. Yes.
Can we back up to the furniture? Because I just wanted, the furniture, is that a true reduction or was that a one-time purchase that we're not purchasing again? Because I want to be really clear on what was a one-time purchase and not making that a reduction in the budget.
It's a reduction over last year, but that was a higher one-time purchase.
Okay.
That line is usually more in the 2,000 range, so it was a reduction, but probably not as much.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
So Nias, she's given you a breakdown of the 3 years coming up. So for this fall, we did the accreditation seminar. We're looking at next fall as an evaluation seminar, and 2 years from then as a follow-up. We have our collaborative conference, which is the new term for that's our on-site visit. So our collaborative conference will be, the first part will be this fall in April. We have the decennial accreditation is in 2022. So our first piece will be a fairly quick one night. We have a conference with the folks who will be heading up our team who will be visiting. The decennial visit is the larger piece where the team comes in and really looks at self-study. They look at all the pieces that we have here. The standards of accreditation have changed for NIASC. They are now more streamlined to our specific needs within our.
Should we put this on?
Do you want to table this for, yeah,